So once again, hi everyone, and welcome to Android254 and Kotlin Kenya June Meetup. We are happy to host you for yet another meetup. And today we have quite an amazing session. Actually, two of them lined up for you people, and hopefully that you're going to gain from the meetup. So I, who will be the host today, I'm Harun Wangereka. I'm an Android developer and a co-organizer for the two meetups, that is Android254 and Kotlin Kenya. Yes, you can always feel free to reach out to me or to Candy or either Frank in case you have any suggestions. So I'll just begin with the normal introductory slides that I usually do for every meetup. So maybe for those who it's their first time, we have like a plan for maybe the year. That is the 2021, and we are halfway the year, but we have done a couple of this. One, we have the monthly meetups, which usually happen every third Saturday. They are virtual and we usually record them. I know we have not yet uploaded them to YouTube, but it's something we are sorting, and we will upload all the sessions from February, and we'll let you know once they are up. So we have a hackathon plan every 2 months. We haven't started it yet, but it's something which is along the lines. Another thing we have is quarterly in-depth sessions, nicknamed as quiz. These sessions where we have like a workshop kind of session and conferences where you get like a certain topic, let's say, for example, Jetpack Compose, and we have a deep dive from maybe the basics to advanced level. And also we have another kind of a session, which is called Showcase Nights. We had the first one quite in April. We didn't have time to maybe organize the second one, but it's something along the plans. But is Showcase Nights is just a place where you get to showcase what you build, or maybe in case you have an awesome idea or something you've been working on, you can showcase on. And also, we targeting more speakers, Kenya and all of Africa to begin with, and also a bit of Googlers and also GDs and dev evangelists. And also, of course, you, in case you are here and you want to maybe submit a session, we always welcome you. Don't feel shy, or don't maybe say that you've never presented before, because we have quite a number who have done their first presentations in this meetup. So don't be afraid, always submit for our sessions. Yes, so and maybe just a recap of our plans for 2021, it is quality and quality, from the sessions to the speakers and to whatever we do. We focus on quality, and also in the long run to ensure that we have a community building amazing apps and also libraries and also tools. Yeah, so that is, and in case you maybe have something that you feel like you like us to try, we are always open for feedback. Even if it is maybe a suggestion you have seen in our meetups, please feel free to maybe reach out to us and maybe give us the feedback. Yes, so as I said, we have the meetup application form. So, and maybe first and foremost is to thank all the speakers who have been submitting their sessions. I think we have had like 2 speakers for all our monthly meetups from February. And that is just amazing to see maybe people willing to share their knowledge and experience in these meetups. So there is a link, maybe I'll share it on the chat also. Yes, so as I was saying, for those who have never maybe given a sessions, we had Washiranduatu giving his first session on Android254. That was in May. And also we had Adhiambo Perez on April giving her first session also on Android254. So these are people who had never presented before, and we did not turn down their presentation because they had never presented before. So in case you feel like you've never given a session and you like to give it a try, please feel free to submit your session and we'll reach out to you. Normally what we do, we reach out to you on the month of we have like a specific dates, let's say July, August, September. So if you submit for September, we'll reach out to you on September, the very first week, so that we can plan for the session. So in case you have submitted I know there are people who have submitted for September, November, but we have not reached out to them. So do not worry. And in case you have never presented before, please let it not stop you from applying for a session. We also offer guidance in case you're wondering which session has been presented about or which session has never been talked about. We have such maybe statistics. And maybe lastly, in case you'd want to co-present with someone who has ever presented before, that is also something we usually organize or plan for. So I think we have a lot. So you don't have to be afraid if you have never given a session. I'll encourage you to maybe submit your application. That is the link, but I'll share the link on the chat once I'm done with the presentation. So maybe just to highlight, later on today at 4 p.m., we have an event. We have collaborated together with DSC Mo University. It's an Android series aimed at maybe getting you from the beginner level to maybe intermediate on Android, covering a wide number of topics. So that is the Meetup link. So I'll share the link also. We have Odari and Ronnie. So Ronnie will also be our speaker today, doing an introduction to Android. So in case you'd want to maybe hear an introduction to Android for developers who have been working on Android for quite some time, so this is your session. You can join them later on today. I'll share the link on the chat once I'm done. And so I don't want to maybe take much time in the introduction. I want to quickly go to our sessions today. We have two exciting sessions today. One is modularization, keeping stuff where it belongs by Elphas. And the second one will be API consumption with Kotlin by Ronnie Otieno. So these are two exciting sessions, and I'm also eager to see what the speakers have in store for us. So without more further ado, I'll stop my presentation and let Elphas start the session. Elphas, if you can.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
How are you? Okay. Hope you guys are okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, good. Still see my screen, my Android Studio. I just want to confirm that all the screens are okay.
Yeah,
what can you?
We can see the Android Studio.
Okay, sure. So I'm going to, sorry. I'm going to, I know you guys, being a part of being a developer, we don't like slides. We just want to go to the in thing. So I just have 3 slides to explain what I'm doing. And then from there, we will have quite a couple of things to do in terms of, I have set up I have about 2 projects that we're going to look at. I just wanted to ensure that we cover people of both divides. So basically whatever we're going to do is revolved around modularization. And this is I haven't done it very perfectly, but the idea is just to show you how you're supposed to, not how you're supposed to, but my approach on how I look at how you do modularization and how to ensure that how you do your modules, stuff remains where it's supposed to be and not, you don't have references of your implementations where they're not supposed to be. So why the first question is, why basically do we need more? Do people do modularization? For first scenario, just ease of maintaining. Imagine you're working around 10 people on the same app, and you have to modify the same code base, and probably you're working on different stuff. Modularization can make it much easier for you guys to come up with some form of contract on how you interact, how you interact with regards to where someone is working, and help just manage how easy it is to modify different parts of code. Then faster build times. So why faster build times is, you see, the thing about when you do a modularized app, what will happen is when you try to do a build, if you haven't touched any code from a certain module, what will happen is Gradle will not try to build that module, but instead it will build the module that you have touched, changed, and the modules that depend on it. So that would reduce basically the amount of time you need to do a build. But if you have one single module, basically everything has to be built up from scratch. Then faster CI. I do not know how to do this one, I'll be honest with you, but from a presentation from Google in 2019, they were able to reduce their build times for Android X libraries from about 2 hours to just about 10 minutes. By they wrote a plugin that basically, Git plugin that would go through their code, and so they wrote a plugin that would, a Gradle plugin, not a Git plugin, that would go through their code and only run tests for modules that are affected by sections of code that have changed. So with regards to that, they were able to reduce their build times to about just 10 minutes from 2 hours. Then there's also the aspect of good for business. With this, it's going to be with regards to dynamic modules. You don't have to, people tend to drop off when they find themselves doing things they don't necessarily need to do. So yeah, there's that aspect of things. Now, the next thing is just a basic overview of modularization. There are different ways you can do modularization. Actually, yes, while I was trying to research on how to approach this presentation, I saw someone saying different people, like I'll say this, in Android, there are different opinions. So you just need to find what works for you and play with it or run with it. So there are two main ways you can look at modularization. And then if you go into the details, it's up to you to decide how you'd like to do it. One is feature-based, the other one is layer-based. Feature-based is where you're basically modularizing a feature in your app. And layer-based, you're looking at your architecture. You have your services, so you have your API module, you have your database module, you have, let's say, a core module. And so I just have this diagram that is not mine, is borrowed. You probably will find it somewhere in a talk or something. I just wanted to use it to demonstrate this, a high level of what this is like. So we have module 1, module 2, and module 3. Module 2 and module 3 are basically feature modules. And module 1, on the other hand, is an Android library. So the app module will depend on module 1, but module 2 and module 3, which are feature modules, basically cannot run on their own. So they'll depend on the app module. But now the app module will declare them as dynamic features. And then, so you can have them delivered to the user depending on when the user needs them. Then you have a core module that basically has shared code, which the other modules can depend on. And let's say in such a scenario, how we do this is something like this. So app module will basically depend on module 1. So we'll have implementation project module 1, then we'll have module 2 and 3 depend on the app module. So yeah, you have such a scenario. And then we'll have module 1, 2, and 3 basically have some common code that they basically share. We'll have them in the core module. Yeah, so that's said and done. You have a basic of what we want to do. Later on, I'll try and explain how we'll approach applying them. And my assumption is most of us have an idea of dependency injection because we're going to use a bit of dependency injection. Just to cover everyone, I have a project that we did, I think, with a couple of guys sometime back that uses Coin. And thank God one of the person just undid what I had done so we can redo it for me to explain the same concept. Then I've done another one on using Hilt, so we can use that as well to just clean it up. If you need to look at the sample code, I can just give me a second to share with you guys I can share the URL with you guys. So let's see. This is one, I think it's public. I hope it's public. Okay, it's actually private, but I'll just show you guys with this scenario. But I'll use mine that is public. I did some, let's see. Yeah, this should be public. I think it has, I thought I did 2 commits anyway. Probably didn't push 1 commit, so yeah, that's okay. Zoom. Trying to get a hold of the main window. How do I? Okay. Oh, it is
at the top.
It's actually not at the top. It's on the side for. Okay, yeah, it's now in the chat. So you guys can still see my Android Studio, right? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So we have this app. It basically, this is the structure of this app. So we have the app module, we have the core module, which has nothing. It just has shared dependencies. We'll go through that. Then we have a database module. Then we have a domain module, and we have a network module. So ideally, how most cases people have done this structure is, if I go to, let's go to the app module. So from the app module basically depends on the core module. And the core module literally has nothing. I'll show you what the core module does and then explain a few concepts there. So there's basically nothing here. But there's, with the core module, what we've done is, if you come to build.gradle, I have these dependencies defined here as API dependencies. Now, this brings me to the first aspect of how you declare your dependencies. Now, when I declare a dependency as an implementation versus an API, so ideally with implementation, when I declare a dependency as an implementation, any module that is using this, that implements this module, cannot be able to access my implementation dependencies, but they can access my, they can just access what I have, but not my implementation dependencies. But if I declare my the core module implementation dependencies as APIs, that means that if I go to, if I implement, say I go to, let's say, so for example, I need to use Timber. If I go to network and I need to use Timber, I don't need to define Timber here. But I can, if I open any place in network, and so what network just needs to do is basically implement core. So if I come here and say, I just want to log something with Timber, I can be able to use Timber, which is provided basically by my core module. On the other hand, if I was to change that into an implementation, so let's see, that was in the core module. If I was to change that into an implementation, and just sync it. So if I go to this, this should actually complain. Yeah, so there's that aspect of when you want to have something shared, say a dependency shared across. So that's, for me, that's how I would approach it. Sorry, this is supposed to go back to API. Now, the other thing is how this is going to be structured is such that, so we have, in this application, how I've done it, how I wanted it to behave, which of course you can go and break it down to what your scenario should behave like, is I'd like to fetch data always from my database. So the idea is my first request for data is at the database. But if the database has no data, what I'll do is I want to go to the network and fetch data. The application is quite simple. It does, there's nothing much it does actually. I'll just show you guys what it actually does. It just hits the API queries for, it hits the API's queries for a list of COVID statistics, and then displays the, whether it's loading, and then it displays how many records it's basically fetched. So how the emulator would look like is something like this. It will just show here loading, then it will show loaded 420 items. And so the implementation for how that works, so is basically we'll have in our database, I'll just show you a bit of this. So what we've done is we'll check if our database is empty. What we'll do is we will hit the API, get some results, and then save those results, and then emit those results to basically the user interface to display. Now, with this structure, what happens in this scenario is if I go to my application class, my application class, of course, would basically implement all these modules. So if I go to my, before that, let me just go to the app, to this. In the application class, we basically have it implement all the other modules. But now, the things the application class should never know. The implementation details about how the database gets data or how the database is structured, whether there's a DAO or your application level, your app module should never know such details. the network. Your app module should never know what your API client looks like. But now, here's where the trick comes in, depending on the dependency injection framework you're using. This is where, I don't know if, I know we normally have guys who are pro coin and guys who are pro Hilt. So this is the difference between how you structure your dependencies with regards to those two frameworks. So when you're using Hilt, all singleton components that you declare. So basically, let's say we'd like to provide. Let's go to the database module, and we'd like to provide our database. So ideally, if you're providing our database, what we'll need to do is, I'll just show you a simple implementation of how this is done. So we just have our database structure here, which is room. We've defined it there, and just to ensure that it's a singleton, we check if there's an instance, we just return that instance. If not, we create an instance and return the instance. Now, if we want to tell Dagger how to provide it, we'll come and say we install it in the singleton component. So all singleton components are provided by the application module. Now, this always brings trouble. It also costed me quite some time yesterday. I remember I had this issue, but I had resolved it in a different project. And then when I was trying to set this up, I encountered the same problem. And then before I figured out, this is an issue I had experienced before. So now, because you need to provide, let's say, you need to provide a room database instance. So your application module is supposed to know how to provide room because it's responsible for that. But it's not, because all singleton components will be installed in your application, will be provided by your application module. So if I want to provide this my database here, what will happen is, in declaring room in my database module, I will have to declare it as an API. But now, here's the tricky bit about it. I want my application module to be able to know how to provide room, but I don't want it to know how the implementation of my database, which is ideally this. So if I come to, right now the problem is, if I come to this class, which is my main activity, and do something like, say, val database, COVID stats. So we have COVID, come on. Okay. COVID stats. So I can see things like COVID stats DAO. I see things like I can see DAO. I can see the database should be almost somewhere. Stats. What is it called? COVID DB. It's called COVID DB. Okay. COVID DB. Come on. COVID database. This, I shouldn't be able to see such things. But this application module is supposed to be able to know how to provide me something like room, so that the other modules can be able to figure out how to basically get an instance of my database. So the goal of this is to be able to provide room, but at the same time not show the implementation details of how my implementation of room in this project is done. So how do I go around doing that? And even before I go around doing that, this is different with Coin. Coin, on the other hand, I don't need to, let me see, let me open that other project. Coin, on the other hand, if I go to my database module, I don't need to define, I actually do need, wait. Oh, it's actually the same story. It's actually the same, sorry. It's actually the same. You actually need also to define this as an API for it to know how to provide room. But what I need to check again is the network, things like retrofit, and we'll get to retrofit and retrofit, okay, HTTP and the other network dependencies. So now, here, we want to be able to provide this to our database module, but we don't want to expose this implementation details. So what we're going to do is anything that you do not want to expose out of your module, we're going to mark it with @internal, meaning that is my voice okay? Can you guys hear me? I hear someone says my voice something.
Yes. I think on my end, I can hear you clearly. Maybe someone else can confirm.
I think you are loud and clear.
Okay, sure. So now, what we're going to do is we want to ensure that we don't expose our database to any other module. Our COVID database should stay here, but our application needs to know how to provide Room database. So we've declared Room as an API, so it's available everywhere in anyone that implements this module can be able to see Room. But now our implementation detail should not be seen out there. So that's where we begin our restructuring of this code. So what we'll do, we will come and in anything that we don't want to expose, like say our database, we will mark it with @internal. We'll mark it with internal. And also we don't want to expose the structure of our entities, because these are basically database stuff and should just stick here. So we'll also mark this with internal. And then, of course, the DAO, we also don't want the DAO. The DAO will already start complaining that you're trying to expose an entity. The DAO will say, I am available out there, but you are saying I can expose the COVID, the entity, which says I don't want to be exposed. So what that means, we'll also have to do here, internal. And then, now, the repository, on the other hand, as well, will complain. The repository is where we're fetching this data from. It will complain and say, you're trying to expose the DAO out there, and the DAO says, I'm not supposed to be accessible outside this module. So this will also have to be internal. The moment we do that, we develop another problem in our application class. So right now here, we cannot access the repository. We are going to change this implementation because we're actually injecting just the repository here, which ideally you're supposed to do it in a view model or depending on how you structure your code. So this is complaining we can't access that. Reason being, it's been made internal, but we need to find a way to expose the functionality without necessarily exposing the implementation. That's where the domain comes into play. The domain module is basically a plain Java or Kotlin module. And this can be used to do your moving around of anything that is not specific. It's just plain Java or Kotlin. So here we can define our Kotlin, our repository, which is COVID repository, which returns a flow of COVID statistics. Now, we will, because our database module will implement our domain. So what we'll need to do is we'll come here and change this to, we'll call this repository. Okay. Harun, is it possible for you to have me as, just give me permissions to present without being the host so that I don't get the interference from guys requesting to join?
Okay.
Yeah. So here, I'll change this to an implementation to input. So I'll select all, refactor, do refactor. And then here, it's supposed to be impl. And then here, what I'll do is I'll have it implement COVID repository. And of course, we have issue, what's the issue? Let's see. So we have this guy says, I return a flow. It's a suspended.
Give me a second. Maybe you'll have to maybe stop sharing so that I can do the settings.
Okay. So just guys, give me a sec. Okay.
So I think you can try now. It should be okay.
Okay. Okay. So why we have that as a problem is because we have this as a suspend function. So let's just remove that. We don't need that. So yeah, we have this. So we need to have it override. Come on. Oh, now, so we get into the next set of problems. So we have this saying, you're trying to provide, this is supposed to return a COVID stats. We don't want to expose our entity. So what we'll need to do is have another class that basically maps, our entity maps into. So this is the same as, it's the same as what we have for our entity this side, where is database. So it's the same as this. It's actually the same, but it does not have any room implementation details. So we have that. And then we'll need to define a mapper to map from, to do a bidirectional mapping. If you're saving stuff, you'll need to map it from this to the entity. And if you're querying, you'll need to map from entity to this. So what we can do is we can have this function, which is a Kotlin extension function, just to map our entity, this one will map our domain object to an entity. It also has to be internal. And then we need another one to map our entity to our domain object. So we'll have that, and we'll have this here. So we'll call this to domain. And then here we'll have that. Then this is null. So this basically would do a two-way map, would be mapping two directional. Either to you have one to map to the domain, another one to the entity. So if we come here, it means we have to map all these items that we're trying to emit to the start. So we'll do a map, and then we do it dot to domain. And then also we need to do the same here. Map it dot to domain. Yeah, and that basically solves our problem. So anything that comes out of the repository has no idea about the details of the implementation of our database. So if we go back to our main activity, now we can't access this. So I'm going to remove all this that we can't access. And then we need to provide how we map this repository to our implementation. So what we'll need to do is come to our database module. Of course, this is still is public. So the only way we'll solve these issues about providing our database as well is marking them as internals. This we don't need this. This was for test. But now we need to provide our repository. I'm not going to create another module just for that, so I'll just do it in here. So we'll just do at provides at singleton, and then we do fund provide COVID repo. Then I think we need API, COVID API. So we need COVID, come on, stats. Wait, let me just see what that repo needs. It needs service. Okay, where is that? Yeah, so we need that. And then we need to, so this should return the implementation. So the implementation is, not the implementation, the interface, which is basically COVID, COVID repository. And then we need to map it to the implementation, COVID repository impl, and pass our COVID DAO, and this is supposed to be, and COVID service. And of course, because this is internal, we also have to do the same here. Okay, so now what we can do is we can use this repo to access the implementation for this, for our database without necessarily knowing anything about the database. So we can come here and do, we can do at inject something like COVID, COVID stats repository. And with that, we can be able to do this. So right now, if I try access anything that is from my database module, like say I want to access my DAO, val say DAO, and do COVID stats. So I can't access my DAO at all. And I can't access my database, COVID database. Whatever is here is basically whatever I can't access. I literally cannot use this. So by doing that, I've hidden all the implementation about how my database provides me with data from the application module. And the same thing applies to, the same thing would apply to when you're handling your network. So if you're to do the same thing in the network layer, you'd have something, so you'd want to hide how you're doing everything in here. So you don't want someone in let's see, close or so you don't want someone here to be able to do something like val service or API. I think API is still open. COVID. So, yeah. So you're breaking. Harun?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So there is someone who is asking what is the purpose of having the...
Of having? I didn't quite hear you. Is it on the chat? Let me just check. What is the purpose of having the core module? Okay, in this scenario, I actually, the only reason I used the core module was for a demonstration. What I have done is, with the core module, I have just used it to provide like this. I've used it to provide define my dependencies for Hilt and Timber and coroutines. But in complex, when you're developing a real-time, a big like application, you will find scenarios where you have stuff that you're using. For example, you'll have extension functions that you basically use across different modules or different. So you'd have, let's say, nullability extension functions that you define. Those will apply in your different modules. Like you'd have them in your app module, you have them in your network module, you have them in your database module. So you'll have such things in your core module. Does that make sense? Seems to me like it's a bridge providing Gradle dependencies in this case. Oh, that's someone who was trying to explain. Anyway, so before I even go on, I'd like to invite guys to ask questions, and then, because I can go on and then just, so any questions till there? Any questions? Okay. So, Harun, what time am I supposed to stop?
I think maybe either 12:10.
12:10. Okay.
But as long as maybe you can finish what you had purpose to maybe talk about.
Okay. Okay. So now there's where COVID starts for mapping the entities. So where we've declared the to map the entities, so ideally, now it again depends. There are people who do it like this. So you'll find someone who has a model that they just use in their API, like in their network class alone. And then they'll have another model in their domain that is used in the app. So in such a scenario, you'll find this guy has a mapper in the network class that will map the network domain of the network object to the domain object. And then if he'll have another mapper that will map that domain object to an entity in the database module. So depending, the idea is, if you decide to have a network, an entity model in in your database module, it means you can only map from 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 that particular module where that object belongs. Because the moment you slap it with internal, you can't access it outside there. The only one you'll be able to access is that from the domain, because it's kind of shared across. As a newbie, what is the importance of modularization? I started with mentioning that. Let me just show you something. I think I can be able to demonstrate something here. So I want you guys to look at, I want you guys to look at how we're going to do our compilation here. So I'll do build mech. So we've changed the domain. The app will also get changed. I think I haven't built this, so it will build all of them. So it's built all the modules. So let's go and change something in, let's change something in database. So we can do something like, let's see, let's change something in the DI and just do something simple like @provides @singleton internal fun provide nothing. So then we just say unit. I hope that works. No, that won't work. So let's say, so we provide COVID entity. What's the issue? Let's see. Okay, this is the issue, equals. So we can do something like that. I need to change this and change this. So now look at what's going to happen here when I do a build mech. It's app and data. The database module and the app module are the ones that are going to get recompiled afresh. It didn't go compiling all the other modules, only the ones that were changed and the ones that depend on them. So that's something to do with the build time. Also, when you have many people working on the same project, when you have several people working on the same project, it's much easier for them to like split tasks without much conflict and develop contracts around how they handle stuff. Any other question? So if there's no question, I think with that, I've covered basically whatever I needed to cover. You have access to this code. You can go and try do the same for right now the service layer, the network layer is still kind of having the same problem. So you can go and try sort that out and just to see if you can be able to figure it out correctly. Again, my structure is for demonstration. It's not necessarily for, you can pick a different structure. You can decide to have use cases. So if you have use cases, you again need to think of where do they sit? And if they sit at this point, how do they behave? You can decide that I would like to have a use case that will basically query from the database. And then if the database is empty, what you need to do is go to network and fetch, and then pass it back to the database. And then you just have your UI observe the database. That still works. It depends with what you prefer. So the whole idea is just try and ensure that implementation details for your different modules are not necessarily exposed for other people to use like in another module, because that creates a bit of mixing stuff, because someone will, it actually will beat the need for you to even do the modularization aspect of your code. I have actually, I have a complete setup for this as well. So I'll just push that as well. Git push origin clean. So yeah, the clean branch has both the two modules like already sorted out. So you can have a look at that in case you need any help or have any questions. I'm open to listening, helping, and I'm also open to better ways of doing this. This is something I've also been learning. It takes me quite quite some time to, it took me some time to just get a grip of this. It took me almost a whole 2 days to figure out that singleton components are provided by the application module with Dagger. And yeah, so I'm actually okay to have you guys look at this and come and tell me, no, this doesn't make sense. We could do it like this. It's a learning community, so feel free to reach out. Someone is asking about my experience at KP. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'll start with, it's unfortunate. Let me start with what I was supposed to start with. My name is Elphas Khajira. I have worked as an Android engineer for about 5 or 6 years. Longest serving at KP. And right now I work at a company called Just Spark. And someone also just, and I used to lecture at, okay, I was a part-time lecturer at Strathmore. So yeah, I've had an opportunity to train some of you who I've met out here and have challenged me, and I've enjoyed learning from even my students. And yeah, someone asked about Kepe. Kepe is a good company to work for. I wish you all the best if you've applied there. I know they're actually hiring. I'm not fully there, so I know they're actually hiring. And if you're interested, yeah, just try, give it a shot. I heard they were doing some interviews, so give it a shot. Can you share resources about modularization? I went through something. There's if you can go through this, if you can go through this, this will explain to you
both versions, the reflection and the service loader, and one of the samples that's.
If you can go through this, I like how they approached how they did it. But now there's some things, of course, you won't see some of the details of what I have I've been doing. I don't know, they probably have an updated version. This was from 2019. I don't know if there's any presentation that is current, but with regards to, oh, sorry, I sent it to Kennedy only instead of sending to everyone. So with regards to whatever I have just shown you, I basically picked that up from trying out different stuff out of reading. Just, I can't give you a specific place, but if I find any articles, I'll just add them to the README, and then you guys can go and go through. From the code, I can see each Gradle file has its own build. Can modularization also be implemented by a single Gradle file for all modules? But the idea behind modularization is to have modules that are self-containing. They just know whatever they need to like do their role. So it won't make sense to go back to having one big Gradle file to do the dependencies. That takes you back to a single module app. Any other question?
I think we have a hand raised, Corinne.
So my name is Khajira. I hope you can hear me. I couldn't actually type it because it's a kind of long. So it's a nice presentation and kind of borrows a lot in terms of clean architecture.
Yeah.
So one thing that I really noticed was you putting the implementations that's trying to depend on the modules on the app module. So my idea was, suppose we have these dependencies on the other layer so that we don't have to, on the app module, we don't have to depend on the network module. Rather, we depend on the presentation. And then the presentation kind of depends on the data module. So that the app module itself does not depend on the data modules. Suppose we have the network and the database module. I believe it's kind of goes with one of the solid principles that we talk of inversion, dependency inversions, inside things. That's my idea on that. And another one that I caught my impression was where we we inject the interfaces, and we could even go to an extent of injecting a typed interface so that the app module is not aware whether it's talking to a database locally or an online repository that's coming from the API. So those are something that I noticed, and maybe it's because of ILT or something that we have the dependencies within the other dependencies of layers within the application. So maybe, I mean, is it because of ILT? I don't have much knowledge on ILT currently. I have Dagger and...
when you're doing dependency injection, and I actually noticed it's almost the same thing with Coin. All your dependencies are provided basically by the app module. So the app module needs to know how to actually, if you look at the implementation, the app module is basically, most of the other modules will end up like having to for them to provide something, they have to know where that thing comes from. And only app module knows where all those things are. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's true. But I think there is another approach on the same anyway.
Okay, I'm open to exploring whatever you've suggested. We can actually explore that, see if we can be able to do something like that, because I know let's say let's see, for us to be able to access, to know how, like for let's say database, to be able to know where to get resources about domain, they have to be installed in the app module. So then the app module can be able to provide those dependencies using the dependency injection framework.
Okay, so even, okay, yeah, okay. But in Koin, there's a way where you can, the module can include other modules
yeah,
provided something so that it's kind of channeled upwards. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that's fine.
I'm not a very good expert with Koin. I would ask Aaron to give you a solid answer on that one.
Was the question again? Can you hear me?
Yeah, Aaron. No, it was kind of a suggestion I noticed of where we can remove these dependencies on the app module.
Yeah. Which ones?
And
The
so
implementation.
yeah, so kind of we remove the database dependency there and move the network dependency there, and also the domain, so that the app module depends on only one module below it, and the below module depends on the rest modules.
But again, just to, given whatever you said, it doesn't make a difference to create, it doesn't make sense to create a module that just depends on all these modules, and then we have the app module depend on that. It's just adding another layer, which honestly won't make sense to do.
Okay, maybe I can
Okay.
comment on this.
But
Yeah.
maybe just
You could do that, but then say you have two modules that depend on something. When you try to build the application, you'll be providing two instances of that particular dependency.
If you have,
so by doing that, you might have some conflicts, which will cause you to provide that particular dependency again in the app module. So it tries to do as Elphas suggested.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I think I would explore that. Yeah.
Okay.
But again, maybe to also expand more on the question, it depends on the module setup, because at times you might see maybe we have maybe like a data module which implements the database and maybe network modules separately. So what modules you add on the app level really depends on the project, the module maybe setup that you go.
Actually, also the setup would also matter how you structure your stuff. Any other question?
Yes, I'm trying to trace another question that was lost in the chat.
Let me also do that.
So Eric was asking, can we use build source to provide the Gradle dependencies as well?
Build source, when you're using Kotlin DSL?
Yeah.
I think if you look at, there's this project has almost a similar approach. So it's possible to do that. I just chose to do with Groovy because most people have not yet switched to DSL. So yeah, but either way, you can do it whichever way. So depending on your expertise, you can choose whichever way. I noticed someone complained about Java. I'm sorry, I couldn't cover Java as well. So, but yeah, the concept is actually just the same. What we were focusing on is more on the implementation as opposed to the language. And so if you can follow through, I think if you can follow through, the concept is actually the same. You just have the same setup and you can be able to get it along. The only thing is, yeah, of course, the syntax is different, but you can do the same setup in Java. Okay. Is there any other question that is pending? Okay, that's said and done. Thank you guys for listening, and yeah, you can feel free to have a look at the code. It's on GitHub. They're just two commits. So one is complete. I think what did I call it? One is in a branch called clean. Another one is in the main. That's it. Okay.
So thank you so much, Elphas, for the amazing session, and also the detailed walkthrough and more practical example on modularization. I think maybe for those who have not maybe yet started with modularization, this is a session maybe that gets you kickstarted, and some of the lessons that he has learned over the time that maybe he didn't have, maybe as a beginner, you don't have maybe resources to maybe just get the answers. So thank you so much, Elphas, for the great presentation. It was a pleasure having you.
Welcome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and also maybe a fun fact, it is also his first maybe presentation on Android 254, just to spread the message. Maybe if you have never presented on Android 254 Kotlin Kenya, don't feel afraid. So I'll want to introduce the next speaker. Ronnie, are you there, or can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Another fun fact maybe about Ronnie, it is also his first presentation on Android 254 and Kotlin Kenya. Am I right, or?
You are right.
Yes. So I don't want to preempt what he has, so I'll let him introduce himself and take over the remaining session.
Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Ronnie, and I'm Android developer at Labs Africa, and also Amarula. That's a company based in Europe. Sorry, just a moment. And so I work like in 2 places, and this is my like 2 years. I've been coding for 2 years and 5 months now, and I would like to present to you how to mostly my presentation won't be that of modularization like the one that we just had. Mine was just like a single module, and how to use MVVM, repository pattern, use Dagger hilt to get data from the API. So that's what I want to go through. We will go through this API here. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so we'll go through how can I hide this control, this sharing control of Zoom.
The one that is there up.
Yeah, how can I hide it?
It's usually sticky, so I don't think you can
Is
hide
that,
it.
you guys can see it, right? It's just me that can see it.
Yeah, only you can see it. You can only
Okay.
see your Chrome browser.
Okay, so we'll go through like this simple API because you don't need to have API key and everything. We just get the URL and endpoint, and that's what we'll use today. It's just to get the players. So the first thing first, let's open the demo. So I want to add these panels here. Let me see, just a moment. Hide. Perfect. So let's go through this is the activity, the project that I built for that, and I've added some dependencies that we need to use, like OKTTP and retrofit. Added the coroutines and added the hilt, and also some of the KTX features that we later to use the KTX function that has been written, like built-in coroutine scope and all those. And also available that I wanted to use flow, but I didn't feel that it was right at the moment, but just want to use live data for now. But still, you can just refactor and use flow. So the first thing first, we need to start with creating our application. That's where we will put in our hilt. That's the dependency injection framework. So let's just create. Let's just create an application. So this year we'll tell him that then it need to inject to provide everything that we need in the application. And we just go to manifest and add it at the name. That's perfect. And because I will only use like the activity, just one activity for that, we don't need to put fragments, everything. I'll just put Android entry point. This tells you that this tells the Hilt that it needs to provide the classes to this main activity. Entry point is just like entry point mostly are in main activity, not are in activities, fragments, services, things like that. So they're in Android components. It tells Hilt to provide for that Android component. In this case, it's the activity. Yeah. So the second thing that we need to do is just create a package. We just call it data for now. Here we will have, let's just call repository. And let's another one, let's call it API. Here we'll have an interface, API service. Let's call another one, let's call it BI. So DI is where we'll provide for the like libraries like retrofit. Those are the ones that we can just inject directly. We need to provide them from the from the library because we don't own them. So first thing first, also let me add view model. We just call it main view model because it's just one. First thing first, let's go to the API and get the URL. This is not like maybe the best way to do it, but I just put it somewhere like you tell like a file, but there's a better way to do it. So let's just call it constant var base URL. And this is our base URL, yeah. And for us to make like a response, we need to get the data and how it's structured. So we'll just copy this. It's sure that what we will get from that. Yeah, so copy that. And I have this, first of all, let me add model. I have this plugin that's allow you to create the Kotlin classes, data classes from the JSON. So that's what we're going to use. Just paste the JSON there. And let's remove this because they don't work. And let's call it like maybe player's response. So the thing that I'm doing currently, if we use like multimodular, like the first presentation, of course we'll do it differently. But for now, it's just want to show how you can get the data from the APIs, not the multimodule stuff. Yeah. So now if you see here, we see that it has been created, but we can change this data to maybe just player, just refactor. The name is player. And got player response. Here too, we can rename it as player. Let me go players because it's a list, and just put serial as a name. as data. This will show the retrofit that the data is called players is called like data.json, which we'll get back. And now to go with it, let's now create something called network resource. This will help us to know if the data is loading, data there's error, or there's success. Let me just get it somewhere else. Call it network resource. This is a generic class that will tell us that will tell that data has been loaded, is loading, or there's something. Yeah. So let me just confirm with what I've written before. Yeah. We have the success, failure, and there's loading. So sorry. So this thing, we don't need even to master it, but if like just known how to write once. So let me confirm I wrote it before, sorry. So yeah, if the data is success, we'll get the response that we need to get, or is failure, we can get the error code or error body if the API is throwing that error body. This can also, they also can be null. So it also depends with your API structure. Then we can have object loading. Loading doesn't have to return anything. It's just loading. Data is just loading, nothing else. Yeah. Now let's go back to repository and have our base repository. And also let's just copy what I had written before. Just a moment. I'm going to explain all this, what all these are doing. So whatever this will do is that it will, every time we call API, it will just pass the API here. And if there's data, we'll just return that data as success to the calling function. If there's an error, we try to catch the exception. If the exception is HTTP exception, we know that the error is from the backend. So we can just catch the code, we catch the error body if it's there, something like that. And if there's no, it's not HTTP exception, we'll just throw it as something like went wrong. Maybe there's no network or something like that, yeah. But this here is good to capture like something like for one and unauthorized, all those error from the backend to show the user that they need to do something for them to continue, yeah. So after that, let's just get players. Let's go back to here. And we have this. Yeah, we get players, we query page and per page, which is pretty easy. So let's just go back. Let me remove these players here because it doesn't need to be there. So here, let's just get suspend fun, get players. And retrofit get, we pass the value that we want to get, which is players. And we are querying with the at query, there is page and per page. Just copy this again, which is per page. So this will query the page according to the API and how many players that we want in that page. Yeah, so easy. After that, let's go to our repository. Our repository need to have the player API service for it to fetch the data. So that will inject at inject constructor. Private val API service. Yeah. And here we can have function to get the data from the API service. So suspend fun, get players. Also, we make sure that we extend our base repository because that's where we have what? We extend the base repository because this is where we want to pass this function called safe API call. If there's an error, it will just catch that error. So here, if we want to get players, we just put like safe API call. Then we pass what we want. So API service dot get players. Let's say we want to get page 1 or page 0, and we want to get 100 players. This can be passed from the function, but for now we just put it there because yeah, it can work. After that, we need to go to vModel. vModel, we need to annotate this as at HILT vModel for it to be injected, for it to be provided, and it must extend vModel. And here we need to inject repository. What? Private val repository. Here we will get the data from the repository. We need to call data from the repository to the vModel. And then we want to use a live data. We can just get the live data of what we want to get. And also, because we know that live data sometimes like persists, so we can use this class here, which is there in an Android documentation that will help us to, just a moment. It's called event. It's just this way, you can just copy it and wrap your live data inside the event. So it can only be called once if you want to, because live data will be, you can call live data, for example, let's say a person was logging in. The first attempt, it was like, it didn't put good credential, get the data back as wrong. If you try again, you will get the data that was there before. So if you use event, we only capture the data once. That will help us not to crudia the data. We can just paste it somewhere here. This will help us to get only data once. We always remember that. It's something that's there, just copy the way it is. So we'll have live data, let's say val response. Mutable live data of event of network resource of the response we get from, sorry, the API service, I didn't put anything, something the response. Here we need to get back the player's response. So here we get live data of event of resource of player's response. This should be private because it's mutable, and we need to only expose the mutable. Immutable. This is mutable. We need to post only expose response which is not mutable. So val response. Let me call level data. This here is one that will be exposed to our activity, and we can have the function to get the API. So fun get players is equal to this model scope is the one that we get from the KTX class. If you have the KTX, we'll just have the scope. There are a lot of things that I've already provided. So we can just put, if we start, we can just put response data dot value is equal to network resource dot loading. This one, what? Sorry. We need to put event of network resource dot loading. That will tell that the data is loading. After that, because it's this here, we will just call, because it's a suspending function. After we call the loading, the response, the value will be gotten like from the now real API. We'll just call repository dot get players. We need to wrap it event. Yeah, that's perfect. Now in our main activity, we need to have that vModel. because we are using KTX and everything, this all will be provided for us. We don't need to provide it on ourselves. And also we can use job for us to know if this has been run, or so we can just put private var job of job. What? To understand. Yeah,
You have to give it a default value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or maybe use let init in case you don't have, if in case you don't want to initialize it with null the first time.
Yeah, I could use let init, but yeah, it's okay. So because we don't have a lot of things to do in the main activity, we just want to get the data. So we can just first of all, we need to cancel the job that it was running before starting a new job. So we can just put job.cancel. We need to make sure it is not null. Then we put job is equal to viewModel dot get players. Yeah. Then also we can cancel this job anywhere we want, but I don't think it really matter here. The thing that I was thinking doesn't really need to apply here. So let's just comment this job before, then I'll see if it will work better there.
Maybe, can you go back to your view model a bit?
Okay. Okay, the job will work better if I'd used floor, but yeah, for now, no, I just will better, so it can work, yeah.
Yeah, but also,
yeah,
if you have the view model scope, I don't think you need the job, because automatically the job will be cancelled once the view model scope is cancelled.
Yeah, so that's why I don't need it. Just thought of that. So the first thing we need to do is get the players, and now we can just observe the players. We'll get like an event. First of all, make sure that event has not been called before, like I said. So we'll just put event dot get content if not handle dot let resource. Now, so we can put when resource is network resource dot loading will show loading. We'll toast something. Then is network dot success. Here we'll show the products. I think I'll just toast it for now, yeah. Because I didn't think we will build like UI for it. I think that's easy. show failure. Yeah, so we can log So if there's code, the error body, you can show the user that this failed because this happened. Yeah. Now we need to provide retrofit for us to use in this project. That we need to go to the DI. Let's just keep things simple and just put installed in singleton. Let's keep things simple. What? Okay, let's go to this. Oh yeah, dot class. And we need to put it as module because he'll need to know that it's module. First, we need to, let's have I like using logging at interceptor, so that will be great. So private file logging interceptor is equal to http logging interceptor dot log dot set level, sorry, dot set level. What? This will log everything, like the thing that we get from the API. This is used in the debug mode. Don't need to use this when you have the app in production, something like that, or release build. So then we can have our client. We don't need to have any interceptor here because it's a simple app. We may have like the interceptor when we are using things like token, or we want to cache data from with the OKTTP. A lot of things that can be done during the intercepting. Yeah. So now let's provide fun, provide retrofit. We need to add client as our HTTP client dot base URL. We add base URL dot, I think those are the one that we need much, then build. Yeah. Now we can put it like at provides. This will tell the Hill to provide for us retrofit. Let's just put singleton. And now let's make the API service fun. Provide. We need to pass retrofit here. So this will get a retrofit that has been made by the hilt. We don't need to pass it like ourselves. That's pretty normal. So let's now create the class, which is retrofit dot create API service dot class dot Java, and notate like provides. I think this is the things that we need for our app to run for now. Let's just confirm if things are okay. Team. Yeah. Yeah. Now we can run our app and see if it actually works. Let's run on Pixel emulator. It will take some time to run. So if anyone has a question when it's running, maybe Ora can clarify something on that. Yeah, that will be great.
Maybe just on this screen, huh?
Yeah.
That toast, I think you haven't shown it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just a moment. And I think it's a bad idea to toast like 100 players. It's not something which is great, but whatever. Anybody has like a question, clarification, or maybe something that we can improve on in this like simple app?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How does maybe Dagger inject the vmodel in your activity? In Coin we use by inject or by vmodel, but I've seen you just using the vmodel by vmodel from KTX.
Yeah, so I think under the hood is just doing the thing that we used to do, like the thing that we used to provide the model. But so we don't need to do all those. We just, of course, Dagger will know my activity, and will know the V model, and will know what we model, the constructor that we model as, and we'll just create that during the building process. I think it's just the same thing, but it's now, it has been done for us. Yeah. Let me go back and see how it goes.
So you don't need to do,
it's the, yeah?
or you don't need to do like by inject or by something.
Oh wow, sure, sorry. Yeah, I don't need to do all those. I don't need to inject the model to my activity, something like that. I think it has run just a minute. The issue with this emulator, I'll just need to clear data, then start again.
I think Zephyr had raised their hand. Maybe Zephyr.
So yes, ask my question on the chat. I want to, if you can be able to explain the event class briefly, if he has an idea on how it works.
Okay, just a moment. Let me just wipe data, and call boot back. Okay, so what event class does is a wrapper class for live data. The thing is, live data will always persist our data, and things like login and everything can have like can affect us developers. A person can log in with the wrong credential, return that data is returned. So if they try again, we'll get the data that was returned before. Now with this event class, now you take that data and get, if it's not handled, if you have not used it, return that data. If you have used it, it return null. So that's basically that's what's happening here. The peak content will always return the data that is there, even if it has been used before. Yeah. So that's what's happening here.
And also maybe to explain why we normally need the event class, we have maybe, for example, we are showing a snack bar or a top message, and maybe you want to show like an error. So once the error maybe happens, and then maybe you rotate your screen and you're using live data will emit the previous value, as Ronnie is saying. So you'll find that your snack bar or toast is being shown again, which is not supposed to be happening. So to avoid such cases, you use the event class because it only gets notified once, and then it doesn't re-emit the previous values on maybe configuration changes or maybe something of the sort.
So just a moment. Let's my emulator's issues. Let's just wait a moment.
While we're waiting, I'm not sure if you really added the demo app class in the manifest.
I did. The first thing I did, yeah. The first thing here. Name, where's name? Yeah. Yeah, this one. Can you see it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I think that's the first thing I always do when working with Hilt. So, I don't think it's a good idea to toss 100 things in the screen. Let's put it as 50. I think on this base repository, I think somehow it's look for like when I said using it, it was linked like something which was hard, but it's kind of easy. It's just it takes the, first of all, it ran on the IO, which is not a must, because if you use the trough, it will always run on the background, and it try to get the data. If it get the data, it will just return that data. If it doesn't, there's exception. We'll check if exception is HTTP exception. mostly if we originate from the back end, we'll show the code. And if there's error body, we will show the body to the user. Else we just show that there was an error because there's no code, there's no button like that. Yeah. So let's now run and see.
Hello.
Hello.
So like mi na follow tu along lakini nataka ni learn basics za Daga Hill na retrofit.
Yeah. I think
lakini currently natumia Java. Lakini naweza soma Kotlin fit.
But still you can use Hilt with the Java bado.
Yes, yes. Nime try out Hilt na Java. Lakini sasa unajua na Kotlin different to ya syntax.
Yeah. Oh, so just a moment. So I'm seeing that it was loading, then it fell, it turned null. So I don't see. Let me try and log in. Okay, TTP. Oh, I didn't add internet permission in the manifest. I think this happened to us, all of us. Ora Arun unasemaje? Uses permission.
It has to be that.
Hey man. Where's internet? What? Null.
Just before you go for Ronnie.
Yeah.
I have a wild idea. How about if you check your base URL if it has some spaces?
Let me check. What?
And check if the API key requires maybe a token.
No,
or not.
I don't have it has space. You are right. What?
How did you know that, Lincoln? Tell us the secret.
How did you know that, Fede?
Not really, just a guess.
You were keen on the session. Lincoln, someone is calling you a magician.
What the? I think there's an issue somewhere. Let me try to log the.
I think you can add an interceptor, maybe to.
Yeah, I do have an interceptor, so I can check.
It's unused. It's unused, maybe from the.
It's unused. I didn't add it. Oh yeah, I didn't add it. Short. And why did I put it there if I didn't add it? What? How? Why? Why does it work? Okay, let's see. What? Why? Harun, can you see any problem with this? I don't see anything. And it's not working. I'm trying to log in the.
Maybe the emulator did the thing again.
Let me see, retrofit. It's not. Okay, TP should have, if I do that, I will be able to see where there's an issue. Don't understand how, honestly though. Debugging nightmare.
So maybe you can try use maybe the profiler.
Yeah, I can do that. Let me see. If I go for login receptor and everything, that module installing, yeah, that should work. And provide client base URL. Nice. What?
No. Never be worried. We're here. Just also check.
Yeah.
On this same screen, I'm not sure how about the query parameters you have per page. I'm not sure if it's underscore page or it should be per dash page. Just to confirm. Yeah, that's good.
It's per page and it's like integer, right? And
yeah, sure, that's good.
Or I passed the page 0. Let me try page 1.
Can you
that
go
can
to
be an
the
issue.
base URL again?
Yeah, going back. Let me try pass page 1. That can be an issue. Base URL. Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah, null. Okay, let me try to.
Has a connection
yes?
to the internet. Does the emulator have a connection to the internet?
Yeah, I do. Kind of weird. So weird.
So does that seem like the error code is null?
Error code is null because I think that's what I'm. Yeah, that's what I'm logging. So I think it doesn't eat the API. I'm pretty sure that's the API.
Go to the base repository.
Base repository.
So maybe on the. So can you try pass the error code here? Because this is the second else block. Network failure where you pass now everything.
Yeah, let me try to pass through where Bobby that will catch things everything.
The other one.
Okay, can I pass error code here?
Yeah, pass an error code there so that
it won't because I can only get code because this is HTTP exception. Yeah, you see this? Let me try to pass through web and see what's the issue. The thing is, I can't get error code here because I can only get because here is the HTTP exception. This is where there's error code. Yeah. You get it, Arun?
But it will always throw 500.
Let me see.
The 500 has grown on that end.
Let me, even if I try exception dot, I won't get error code because I'm not inside the HTTP section instance, which is this, yeah? You see? So it will be just null.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that can't work. All this works. Let me try if this thing really works. Yeah, it's working. This is weird.
Why don't you just log the whole content from the exception? Because in your else,
yeah,
we are missing. You're saying we can't give out the error code.
Yeah.
So
let me try to log at the best repository and see.
Also, just to maybe add, so for maybe failures, maybe you can also add another class that has a message. Maybe instead of passing null, because for maybe in such a case, we have like a message, maybe the robot.message, which you can pass maybe when you have failures that you cannot get the code.
Yeah, true. Let me just log exception dot. I'm just to string. I don't see the need to go to message and see what's the issue.
Ron, what if there is on the else part? You see, you are passing error code as null.
Because I can't get the error code here. I can only get the error code inside the HTTP exception instance.
Yes, but on the logs you are saying error code, which may be the else part
thing
is an error.
Check. This is here. If it's a HTTP exception, I will pass the failure then error code. The thing is, I can't get error code. Yeah, I can't get the error code here because.
What if the error is not HTTP? If I don't know if I'm right.
Yeah, I can't get the code. That's why I can't get the code. Yeah, I'm able to convert.
And I think that's why it's returning null.
No, it's not that. You see, converter for class. I know can enable to get converter for class. Yeah, converter. Yes, I think there's issue somewhere.
Your data class.
Retrofit. Yeah, with retrofit.
To maybe check your data class. And how is the JSON?
It's a JSON. This one here. Yeah, so there's an issue with retrofit. Yeah.
Or did you add, someone is asking, did you add the converter factory?
The dependence.
Shit, I didn't add converter.
Yeah, sure. We haven't seen that.
Who is that? Thanks, man. What the heck? this the out of shit. Thanks, man.
This is why you only copy the retrofit setup.
But they mostly just copy it. Why is it not working? Let me just copy it. Let me just copy it. Let's go to DI. Where's DI?
Yeah, I think with the retrofit setup, I also do a copy.
I just copy you. Man, this is weird. This is kind of weird.
But I had an interview where I had to create this from scratch.
Things like DI just copy, man. Yeah, it's working.
Whoa, finally.
Yeah, it's working. Let me just log everything. Who's the one who's just helped me, Bana? Nafaa kubaya soda. Kibet. Woo! Yeah, so it's working. Yeah, ndakubaya soda. Yeah. So it's working. Yeah. So from there, I don't know. Let me just try to recap on what I've done. So the thing is, the thing that I've done in the activity here, who's the one? Nani anaoga? Okay, the things that I've done here in the main activity can be done in fragments, and that's because fragments are like the mini activity, if you can call it like that. I just have like my V model, which I've integrated my repository, and the V model library that I'm getting to get the data from the repository. And I am observing the data in the activity or fragment that can work. And also, if you have, if you're using things like data binding, you don't need to observe data in the main activity, in the activity or fragment. You can just set data to the text view from the view model, because you will get you will pass your view model in the XML layout of your layout. From there, you can just get the data from there and pass it. You don't need to pass it to the activity or fragment. And the repository just have mostly easy two lines of code per function, which you can just get the players from the service now. So here we have the data source, which I've not written because it doesn't matter. The data source and the repository, the V model, and now our view, which have the main activity or fragment. I think this is kind of good for like a person who's starting just trying to get the API and try to use the MVVM architecture repository pattern. And if they don't follow much of modular and everything that we have done before, so it's a good thing for a start. And also, there are apps that are built on one module, so you can use something like this, like to build like a fully functional app, Bado, yeah. But multi-module can also work, yeah. So if anybody have like a question or clarification or something like that, I can do so. Harun?
Yes.
Do
we have anyone with a question? You can ask on the chat or maybe unmute yourself.
Yeah, and also I'll add this to GitHub. Then I'll pass let me just copy it.
So we have Esther with a question.
Yeah.
So maybe can you clarify why you have the base repository and repository?
Just a moment. Where's chat? Let me share the chat before I answer the question. I can't see chat, but it's okay. Okay, so the reason why I've used base repository is because this function here will be called in every other repository. You can have more than one repository in your app. So there's no need for you to keep writing all this in your repository. And you can just extend it, write it once and just extend it. That's the good thing with the object-oriented programming. You can extend a function that you had read before. So you don't need to write it over and over and over. So here you can just have maybe a different repository. For example, you have a user repository, product repository. I just extend the repository, extend the base repository, and use every function there in my repository class. Yeah. Have you answered? Have you been answered?
But maybe,
yeah,
just I find maybe people using maybe different approach for maybe the safe API call. You can also maybe make it as a, what do we call, top level function, maybe in a file, separate file, where you can just use it elsewhere instead of having to be base repository class and having to extend. You can have like a file, then use it from the file.
That can also work. It also depends with the structure and how you guys like decide to build the app and everything. Like for example, where I'm working like the 2 job, there's some things that I can't do on my 1 job and I can do on the other job. So it also depends with the team and everything. Yeah, it matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone with a question? So maybe as we wait for just a couple more questions, maybe just a question, what are your 5 key things? Maybe you'll tell someone, maybe on MVVM, API consumption.
Yeah.
Just like 5 things that you've learned maybe over the years.
Okay, so just a moment. So the thing that I've learned over the years is that when starting with the VVM and everything, of course, you won't be following the rules and every time, and everybody has a different way of doing something. If you have done something that you feel that this is good, maybe you follow the Google Code Labs and anything, you feel that this is okay with you. You don't need to try to change it every time everybody tells you something else. Yeah, I think that's one thing. Everybody has an opinion on how to do things. If you start going things like which is better, dagger 2, dagger hilt, coiled, that's a conversation that will never end. So you just choose your battle and deal with it. So for me right now, whatever I do, I've never used coin before. I just use hilt and dagger 2, and I can't say that coin is bad or something like that. Yeah, choose your battle. And another thing is that just make sure you don't call network call in your fragment or activity. You don't call DB in your fragment or the activity. Even if you don't have the model, just get a separate file for that. That will be separate them a bit. Yeah. And if you have never used Hilt before, you always just use maybe manual dependency injection. Try Hilt. It's very, very simple. And you want things like model factory, you won't even write them. They will just be generated for you under the hood. Things like that is super, super easy. You can check it out. But don't leave the one that we are seeing because I've said that you should use Hilt. Learning something on top of another is always a bonus. Yeah. And also on API consumption, I know that almost 90%, I don't have the statistic, but 90% of the Android users use the retrofit and everything. You can still just go and just try using OKTTP the way it is. You don't need to go with retrofit. I think that's one thing that we are using in my new company. We don't have retrofit. We just use the HTTP as it is. It's just matter like how this thing will affect or improve your project, what you are doing. We don't need to go to all the best cases in quote, like best usage, something like that. Even if you will compromise a lot in your project, especially if you have like an old project, an old Java project, which you just use HTTP client with no retrofit and something like that, you can just change it all at once. Because retrofit is just a way to make it, to provide a safe way, convert your JSON to your data classes. It uses the HTTP under the hood, so it's more or less the same thing like that. Yeah, that's what I can say.
So we have maybe another question from Esther.
Yeah.
Can the network-bound resource be used with Firebase, or it's for API calls in retrofit?
No, it can't be used with Firebase because the way Firebase it is, unless you are using Firebase as REST, that can work. Firebase has its own SDK, and there's a way on how to get data from the Firebase. But also you can use REST with Firebase, which I wouldn't really suggest. It's not that secure. I think so. That's what I read somewhere. So just use the SDK, which is provided by the Firebase. Hello.
I think we don't have any other question.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Ronnie, for the amazing session and for the live demo. It's one thing to do a session, but another thing to maybe successfully do a live demo and maybe see to completion.
Yeah.
So thank you. It was a pleasure for us having you here. And we welcome you once again.
Thank you, Arun.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arun. And guys, I've shared the link to the code. You can just clone the code and try going through. In case you have any question, you can always reach me out. Let me write my Twitter at.
Yes. And also we also have, as I mentioned, as I was starting, we have a session later on in the evening with DSC Moi. So please feel free to join us.
Yeah, we also have I'll be there. I'm one of the speakers, like tutors who normally go through that project. So you'll get me there. And thanks, Arun, and bye, guys.
Yeah, maybe Candy, maybe you can wrap it off.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, guys, for attending our session, to our amazing speakers, Elphas and Ronnie. It's really an honor to have you guys speak in our session. You guys, you are like the MVPs in the coding world. And also, I always say, whenever you see a speaker like present their code screen, or they have like 3 slides of presentation, and then you just know it's going to get really amazing. Yeah, we are getting technical here, and it's an amazing thing to see the live sessions and live coding. And thank you guys so much for teaching us. And also to the attendees, it's really amazing to see you contributing to the sessions, asking questions, helping speakers fix the bugs. Yeah, it's a nice feeling, and I'm honored to be hosting you guys together with Harun on our Android254 platform. Thank you so much. Have a good one.